In this module, we're going to see how ratios can reveal key differences among industries. To illustrate, we're going to compare 4 companies in different industries: distribution, manufacturing, service, and finance. Ratios are revealing. They show how different industries make money. I will illustrate that by comparing 4 companies with roughly the same magnitude of revenues in different industries. Here are the 4 companies we're going to compare. Whole Foods is a distributor, a retailer of groceries. Sherwin-Williams is a manufacturer of paint. Facebook is a service provider, and U.S. Bancorp is a financial services company. Whole Foods buys and sells groceries. Sherwin-Williams manufactures and sells paints. Facebook provides a venue for advertisers to reach an audience. U.S. Bancorp borrows and lends, hoping to borrow at a lower rate and lend at a higher rate of interest. Distributors like Whole Foods try to sell many items, but they don't make much on each item. Manufacturers sell fewer items and make more on each item. A service provider like Facebook provides the infrastructure, the hardware and software, on which advertisers can advertise. And banks borrow at a low interest rate and lend at a high interest rate. Distributors break down bulk and sell one at a time. They can't charge a high price for their products because the competition is high, so they therefore have low differentiation. Their objective is to sell many items and make a little on each sale. The result is that they generate high sales volume and a low profit margin. The primary ratio of interest is a high asset turnover. Manufacturers make a unique product and sell in bulk. Their differentiation is typically high because their product has different features than the competition. They typically sell fewer items and make a lot on each sale. Therefore, they typically generate a lower sales volume than the distributor and a higher profit margin. As a consequence, the ratio of interest to them is a high profit margin. Service businesses provide a unique service from the competition, and therefore their differentiation is high. They provide infrastructure which is a fixed cost and seek to generate sales beyond the break-even point. An example would be airlines or a hotel. Airlines have a fixed cost of the planes, and hotels have the fixed cost of the buildings. Once they generate enough sales to reach the break-even point, each unit they sell is almost pure profit. Therefore, they can generate a high profit margin, and the ratio of interest is the profit margin ratio. Financial service companies like banks borrow and lend money. Their differentiation is typically low because they all basically lend the same thing, money. Their objective is to lend at a high interest rate and borrow at a low interest rate. They want to generate high liabilities and, as a consequence, high assets that can be lent out. The ratio of interest to them is financial leverage. Let's compare the 4 companies and see what the ratios reveal. Again, to review, a distributor like Whole Foods seeks to generate high sales volume, which would result in a high asset turnover. A manufacturer like Sherwin-Williams will generate a lower asset turnover than a distributor, but a higher profit margin. That's because manufacturers can achieve higher differentiation than distributors. A service provider like Facebook will generate profits once they reach the break-even point. The more sales beyond the break-even point, the higher the profits. And finally, a financial services provider like U.S. Bancorp makes money by borrowing and lending and therefore has a high financial leverage. Here are the ratios for the 4 companies. The first is a profit margin, the second is asset turnover, and the third is financial leverage. I'll give you the raw numbers on another slide that you can compare to the financial statements that you download. As we suspect, Whole Foods has the highest asset turnover of the 4. Again, as we suspect, Sherwin-Williams has a higher profit margin than a distributor but a lower asset turnover. Facebook has a high profit margin because they have generated sales well beyond their break-even point. They have a very low asset turnover because of the high hardware and software investment needed for their infrastructure. Finally, a bank has a very low asset turnover and a very high financial leverage. Their profit margin is unusually high because of the economic climate today, where banks pay out interest of virtually zero and loan money for considerably higher interest rates. As an aside, Sherwin-Williams has a higher financial leverage than Whole Foods and Facebook. Sherwin-Williams has been in business for a considerable longer period of time and feels that they are well established and can sustain the higher risk brought about by higher financial leverage. The concern with high financial leverage is that some unforeseeable event, like a business recession, would cause your sales to diminish and your ability to repay the loan be put at risk. Here are the raw numbers that you can find in the financial statements you download. As you can see, the magnitude of the four companies' sales is roughly comparable, ranging from $8 billion to $13 billion. However, there is a vast difference in the magnitude of the assets. It takes U.S. Bancorp $364 billion of assets to generate their sales, and Whole Foods only $5 billion of assets to generate their sales. Facebook has high assets principally because they have taken in a lot of cash from their initial public offering of stock. You can also see that there is a vast difference in the magnitude of the shareholders' equity. A bank has little shareholders' equity compared to the assets. You can also see that Facebook shareholders' equity is unusually high because of their initial public offering. When you look at the liabilities, you can see the high liabilities a bank has relative to its stockholders' equity. It borrows lots of money to turn around and lend. To summarize, remember the following. Distributors seek to achieve a high asset turnover because they need to sell many units with a low profit for each unit. Manufacturers seek high profit margin because they sell fewer units with a high profit for each unit. Service providers seek a high profit margin by selling beyond their break-even point. Financial services seek high financial leverage, borrowing funds at a low interest rate and lending them at a higher interest rate. I hope that you've enjoyed this class and have learned a lot. Once you get the hang of financial statements, they can be very revealing and interesting. I encourage you to locate and read the financial statements of your favorite company. Believe me, you'll feel much more comfortable and knowledgeable about what you're reading. Thanks for taking this course.